Good morning, everybody. How you guys doing? Happy Sunday. Seahawks played a game yesterday. It wasn't a televised game. It wasn't an official game. It wasn't even a game that was really bound by the rules of the NFL. It was what they call the mock game. And even though they only played three quarters, even though they had the quarterback switching which team they were on back and forth, even though they didn't fully tackle on a lot of plays, it was still interesting and we can still learn a lot from what happened. In this video, we're going to talk about what transpired on the field yesterday for this mock game. I have a bunch of notes over here, so I'm going to be looking over here to try to sum up what happened in this game the best that I can, and we'll gain some insight. This was maybe our best opportunity to gain insight into what kind of team we're going to have this year. So, first of all, I did not go to this game. I know some people did. You could pay like less than $20 to go in and watch, but I did not. However, I did actually end up watching a good chunk of the game because various people who were there were posting clips on Twitter and Instagram. And I believe that's actually frowned upon, so don't do that. But I appreciate it all the same, I guess. So you guys can probably look around and find similar clips, similar montages of plays from this game. So I was able to watch a good chunk of the game, regardless of me not going there. And I was able to keep up through a bunch of different Twitter accounts that were following along with the game. A lot of them were there. So I have a pretty decent idea of what went down. Obviously, there are some big headlines here, and there are some smaller considerations as well. So it's going to be a little stream of consciousness here. I just have a series of notes on what caught my attention during this game, and we're just going to go, and I'll try to round out everything of significance that happened. So if things seem a little scattered, just keep in mind that I tried to take as many meaningful notes as I could, and they're not all going to flow together in a perfect like story of a football game. It's going to just be, I noticed this, I noticed that, and I'll try to make the stuff fit together, but I think we all know that life doesn't always work like that. So, like I said, we only played three quarters, but we still were able to learn a lot. So let's start with what we saw in some of the pregame stuff and go from there. So as we try to find, first of all, kickoffs. As of right now, the four guys who seem to be clubhouse favorites for kick return duties are Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, Ken Walker III, and Darwin Thompson. Now, the Ken Walker decision, and he did actually return a couple kicks in this game, including one he took back to about the 40. He had a good return. He People are not going to be in love with using him as a kick returner because it seems dangerous. I don't really think we're going to use him when the season starts. I think DJ Dallas did very well as a kickoff returner last year, keeping in mind that you're not going to see that many monster kickoff returns in the NFL anymore because of the way it is. So DJ Dallas is probably going to be the guy, but I know some people are going to be a little uncomfortable with Walker being there for now, and with good reason, I think. But for now, we are seeing him in the mix along with Homer, Dallas, and Thompson. A couple guys did not play. D. Eskridge did not play. Jordan Brooks, Sidney Jones. I believe Ryan Neal did not play. We did, however, see some Rashad Penny and some Jamal Adams. So they were willing to go. They were able to go, and they did go. Because of some of the guys we had out, we did actually get to see, and this is really exciting, particularly because of what he did. Tariq Woolen actually got to start at cornerback. He started alongside Artie Burns. And we'll talk a little bit more about Woolen here in a minute, but he made the most of that opportunity. And that pretty much sums up some of the pregame stuff. The the other interesting thing that happened in the pregame was the knowledge that Abraham Lucas was running with the ones. And he seems to have, at least for this game, firmly seized onto the role of being a starting right tackle. Curhan ran with the twos pretty much exclusively. So the starting offensive line was Cross, Lewis, Blythe, Jackson, and Lucas. So for those of you who were waiting for Lucas to take his spot that seemed destined to be his, he has. The backup interior linebackers, and this is an interesting one because we don't have a lot of depth here, were Vi Jones and Tanner Muse. So with Jordan Brooks now dealing with this hamstring thing and Cody Barton being who the heck knows, we don't know what we're going to get from Cody this year. It's interesting to note that Vi Jones and Tanner Muse look like they're going to have some kind of role to play. And Tanner Muse in particular, I like Tanner Muse a lot. I loved it when we picked him up, but I wasn't sure if he was going to be big enough to be an inside linebacker in a 3-4, but we're willing to give him a try. So the game started, and Gino started out pretty well. He hit his first several passes of the game. Hit a couple nice plays to Metcalf. Metcalf was our best receiver out there in the game, as you would expect, I think. He had 63 receiving yards unofficially. You can see some of the stats on screen. Keep in mind, all the stats are unofficial as of right now because it's not really a real game. There are some plays where players don't even finish the tackle. There are some plays where players just choose to not make a tackle because they don't want to hurt their teammate. So the stats are going to be what they are. You take what you can from them, but you keep in mind it's not a real game. He was hitting Lockett. He had one completion to a Goodwin on the first drive, and the drive ended in a Rashad Penny touchdown. So that was the first drive for Gino. He looked sharp, hit 3 different receivers, and Rashad Penny found the end zone in a short yardage situation. So that was a good start. And one thing that I noted from that drive, Homer was the running back on third down. So Travis Homer is your third down running back for the moment. And I think that's good. I like that. I think that's correct. So hopefully he can maintain that role. I think Travis Homer is one of the best third down backs in the league. And I believe that is a role that he can excel in for sure. Moving on, there were actually 2 plays that caught my attention defensively on the first drive. The other one may have been on a future drive. It was hard to keep track of what drive was which sometimes, but Darrell Taylor and Boye Mafe both had plays where they dropped into coverage. And Taylor, obviously, that's going to be part of his responsibilities this year. Mafe may not see that so much because he's new and he's raw, and it sounds like we're willing to accommodate that. But there were actually 2 plays that I noticed where Taylor and Mafe dropped back into coverage, and they held up. They did what they needed to do, and they actually forced the play to go elsewhere. So for Taylor, you expect that because this is a breakout year for him, according to many. But seeing it from Mafe is encouraging because we know that he's raw. We know that some of those things are going to be hard for him. So to see him do that in this mock game was really good. Let's see, what else do we got here? Early on, I think on Gino's second drive with the starters, Tariq Woolen made his presence known. Tariq Woolen played a lot in this game. He had several plays on the ball. He had at least 2 pass deflections. He had an interception that he dropped. But Tariq Woolen is looking good. Now, I've said many times that I don't expect Woolen to play a lot this year, and I stand by that, but it's starting to become feasible that he actually does play. I don't want to put too much into training camp and the mock game and even preseason when we get there. But this guy's making a compelling argument to be given an audition in a real game. This year is probably not going to be a great year anyway. So why wouldn't you give him an opportunity if the window is there to give it to him? So, excuse me. Woolen made several plays where he was just keeping really good coverage. There was a play where he basically had the perfect coverage, deflected the ball, and it bounced into Cody Thompson's hands. It might have even been a touchdown. And you look at that and you go, you wish he makes the play on the ball and actually picks it off. but the fact that we're here with him right now is really encouraging. So, of all the players who played in that mock game, I think the guy who was most interesting to me was Woolen. He made a lot of plays. He was blanketing Marquise Goodwin on a lot of plays. He even went up against Lockett and Metcalf a couple times, I believe, and he looked fine. So we'll see where this goes. I'm not going to tell you that he should be starting or anything like that, but this may not be the extended red shirt that I was expecting when we drafted him. Derek Young, he made a couple of big plays in the passing game. Derek Young, a guy who I'm not anticipating a ton from either as a rookie. I like him. I don't know if there's a ton of room for him on this team because we're pretty deep at receiver, but Derek Young had a big play over the middle. I think it was actually a 4th down conversion that he had. So encouraging stuff from Derek Young. He, I don't know if he has a great chance of making the team even because we're so good at receiver, but to me, he is making a compelling argument to get more opportunities in the preseason. We know that he has some interesting abilities. So that was another shining part of the offense to me. Defensively, I already mentioned Darrell Taylor a little bit, but it bears repeating. Darrell Taylor was roasting pretty much everybody he went against. He was going against the right tackles a lot. I don't know if that's going to be the case in the season because Taylor has said before he likes playing on the left side. But Darrell Taylor is beating up on these right tackles. It could be Lucas, it could be Curhan. He is dominating, and he played really well in this mock game as well. I don't think he had an official sack, but there were plays where he would have had the sack if not for the fact that it was a mock game. And he may be poised to have that breakout Pro Bowl type season. So Darrell Taylor, that's one of the big winners from this game, I think. Okay, so we've talked about some of this stuff enough. We've talked about the little things, but let's talk about Drew Lock for a minute here because Gino didn't play great after the early part of the game. I think he went his last 12 attempts, he completed 5 passes. He had a lot of errant throws, some mistakes. There was obviously some good coverage. The defense locked in a little bit better, but Gino didn't play great after starting out strong. Drew Lock came in, and despite playing most of his drives with the backup offense against the starting defense, he was better. So for those of you guys who are wondering how the QB battle went in this game, for those of you who are trying to figure out what's going on with Drew Lock and Geno Smith, Drew Lock played better. You can look at the stats. His numbers are much better across the board. He had a play where he actually ran for a first down on 3rd and 2. It was a designed QB run, which... look, if he can do that kind of stuff, that's another dimension to his game. So, Geno Smith, he didn't play terribly or anything, but he threw a couple passes that could have been picked very easily. He made some mistakes. He didn't look that accurate. I've heard rumors that in training camp, one thing that he's been having problems with the last couple days is getting the ball out quick enough, which the ability to get the ball out quick is one of the only things that makes Geno Smith passable sometimes. So if he loses that, you don't have much. Drew Lock, one thing that people pointed out about this game was that he was throwing the ball over the middle. There were a couple of over-the-middle strikes to guys like Metcalf and Thompson. There were very few deep shots. He was actually taking his checkdowns a lot. He checked it down to Walker a couple times. He checked it down to DJ Dallas. He checked it down underneath to, I think there was like a play where he checked it down to Lockett for a short gain. A lot of stuff was underneath. He was patient. He didn't take chances. And when he needed to get the ball out, he got the ball out. He was not gunslinging it. And if Drew Lock can get that gunslinger out of his game a little bit, then I'm not going to say we're going to have a great quarterback because we won't, but that is something that we can work with. And the fact that Drew Lock does have that big arm that can launch the ball, the fact that he does have maybe even a little bit of mobility is going to work really well with the fact that he's not unleashing it at every possible opportunity. So Drew Lock won the QB battle. He played better, and he did it despite playing with the sec twos a lot against the number one defense. So from this point forward, Drew Lock should probably get more action with the ones in camp. But in order to make this matter, he's going to have to carry it over into the preseason. That's what I'll say about that. Ken Walker had a fumble, but he recovered it and actually gained yards on the play. And overall, even though it wasn't a great day, he did get in the end zone, short yardage touchdown, and he made plays in the passing game. He had 4 catches for 29 yards, and that's going to be a big part of Walker's game because he did not do that in college, but it seems like he can. He just didn't. Let's see here. What else do we got here? Colby Parkinson looked good. He made a couple of nice plays. He had a pass up the seam for a significant gain. There was a lot of attention being paid to the fact that we were making plays over the middle of the field, which with Wilson, we almost never did that. So that's very notable. Let's see here. We had a touchdown pass to Thompson that was called back by pass interference as well, actually. So he has the 1 touchdown and also another touchdown called back by a PI on Penny Hart. So I mean, look, I'm not saying Cody Thompson's likely to make the team, but he did have a good game yesterday in the mock game, so give him some credit. Jamal Adams was used as a weak side linebacker a little bit, which I know some people think that his destiny may be to play pseudo linebacker. So we'll see if that ends up carrying over to the actual games. Josh Jones was actually the third safety, kind of. So with Ryan Neal out and Ryan Neal really not playing that well as a safety last year, I think that Josh Jones is starting to assert himself as somebody who has a role as a backup on this team. Freddie Swain was returning punts. I did not see Bo Melton returning punts. So unfortunately, it looks like Swain may continue to be the guy, which is fine as long as he doesn't fumble. I don't need a punt returner to bust a bunch of touchdowns. I just need him to not fumble. But I was hoping that it would be Bo Melton's job. Let's see here. Locke, actually, by the way, I already talked a little bit about Locke. He started 12 for 12. He started 12 for 12. Now, he did throw an interception that was wiped out by a penalty after that. So it wasn't all perfect. But to give you an idea of how good he started this mock game, at one point he was 12 for 12. And everybody who was watching the game said that Drew Lock genuinely looked good. So I keep coming back to that. And, you know, this is a big deal. If he can carry that into the preseason, I think he can actually win the job now. It's possible. A few more notes here, more minor things. Michael Jackson had great coverage on a play against Metcalf. Don't forget about Mike Jackson. He played well at the end of the season last year. Don't count him out. Do not count him out at your own risk. Let's see here. What else do we got here? Aaron Donkor had what would have been a sack, but you know they're taking it easy on people, of Jacob Eason. And Joel Dublanco actually had what would have been an interception, but it was wiped out by a defensive penalty. There were a lot of penalties late in this game because it was the true reserves were out there. Kobe Bryant had a nice play on a 4th down to break up a pass intended for Tyler Mabry. What else do we got here? Oh, yeah, there was one play, and this one kind of breaks my heart because it would have been a beautiful cap. There was one play near the end where Drew Lock had Bo Melton wide open running down the field, and Lock just barely overthrew him. It would have been a 60-yard touchdown. And I didn't hear Melton's name otherwise in this game, and it would have been a pretty big thing for Locke to hit that play. So it's too bad. It's too bad that he missed that one, but it does show you that he has the arm to do that. There are quarterbacks out there that can't make that kind of throw, even though he overthrew it. There are some quarterbacks who couldn't overthrow it because they don't have the arm. So the fact that he can do that is good. It's unfortunate he missed it, but I do want to go ahead and point that out there, that he only missed him by a little bit. It was close. So encouraging. And I think that's really about it. That's pretty much everything I took from this game. Jason Myers made all 3 of his field goals. He looks pretty good. Um, I don't know what good it'll be, but if Myers has a bounce back season, then that's obviously good for him. Dixon seemed to have a pretty good game. I think at this point we can count on him pretty much. And yeah, I would say that both sides of the ball showed positive traits. I think that the offense and defense both have things to be happy about. The offensive line seemed pretty good to me overall. There were only a few sacks. I think they got away with holding a little bit. Some people were pointing that out, that Darrell Taylor probably got held a couple times. Poona Ford did get a sack, which, hey, that's cool. Poona Ford's very interesting year he's about to have in this new defense. And I think I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys heard. If you went to the game, let me know what went down to your eye. And that's your mock game. So go Hawks. Got a preseason game coming up in just a few days now. And we are about to get out of the gate here.